Hello my friends and welcome. In this video I'm going to be explaining my value system for business and how I use this value system to make decisions and more importantly create a outstanding and compelling culture in my company. Now you in your position may not have a team or a group of people that you need to motivate and inspire and enable and empower them to make great decisions, but you will. And so this video is really important for you regardless of whether or not you have a team. And I also want this video to help you somewhat start to ask and answer the question of what do I value? What do you value? What do you stand for? What means a lot to you, right? Because trust me, when you have values and when you have clear, defined principles in your life, if you behave in accordance with them, nothing will bring you more fulfillment and meaning, okay? And if you don't behave in accordance with them, you'll feel shameful. If you want to know what to value, it's kind of hard to arbitrarily decide what you value. You kind of just inherently do. If you're wondering how to figure out what you value, this video should help you with that. It might be something you've never considered before, but trust me, building a successful company is all about you. When you build a company, you're basically putting it on top of all of your flaws and everything. And if you don't have like a clear-cut principle system, you can kiss goodbye to any level of success really, because it helps to have principles. So let's get into the video. The key to building an 8-figure company is empowering team members to make effective decisions. Truly, a business cannot be autonomous, cannot run without you, or it cannot be decentralized entirely. And so the people that work for you are actually capable of making effective decisions, okay? Kind of the main thing. Your job as the owner of the business is to make the decisions, and if you wish to step back from it, you need to give people values and principles to make decisions against. And we're going to start with a brief exercise here because it's taken me 7 years to define my core values and my core principles for how I want to operate and what I believe is right in the world. There is no such thing as a right or wrong answer when it comes to a value. Morally, yes, it can be right and wrong. For example, if you value genocide, that's probably not a good thing in the eyes of morality. But my point here is that it takes a lot of thought. And the easiest way to define what you value is to look at times where you felt shame or where you felt joy. Okay, so we want to take two extremes of emotional state. Shame probably being the lowest level of consciousness that a human being can descend to, or guilt or self-hatred. And what you're looking to do is look for a time where you felt genuine shame or guilt or something where you partook in a behavior or you made a decision that the result of that was some severe conscious impact, negatively at least. And what you're doing is you're looking at the behavior that caused that emotion and you invert it. Because it's a much easier to answer the question of what do you not value. Because if you ask yourself what do you not value first, then you can invert what you don't to find out what you do. Because every value has an opposite. So in this video, I'm going to actually walk you through my values and what I hold near and dear to my heart. And the thing about value systems is people say they value stuff, but they don't really. Because people who, it's like someone who says, oh, I value family. And then you look at their family life and it's in tatters. And you look at their decisions and their actions and they make suboptimal or less than, or let's say, they make decisions that leave a lot of love to be desired when it comes to their family. So it's like, people say, I value health. And then they go and order cheeseburgers, right? So you have to a value isn't something that you want to value, it's something that you do. I could say I value building schools for children that haven't got much education, but I don't build schools. So I can say I value it and I can virtue signal till the cows come home, but if I'm not actually going to act on that, then truly do I value it? There's a difference between having a positive sentiment towards an action or a mode of behavior and actually valuing it. What we value is what we act on, okay? So don't be telling me you value your health and your family when all you do is argue with your parents, you hate your sister, and you eat noodles 7 times a week. Very easy to spot. I'll tell you the best way to find your values is to find out what you don't value, find out what you really hate, and then you can find out what you love. And the easiest way to do this really is look at movies you've watched, look at TV series, and look at the main characters, like the protagonist and the antagonist. So look at the main characters that you love and look at the villains that you hate. Okay, so when you're watching a TV show or a movie, pick your favourite one and ask yourself, what characteristics or what value system does this character operate in? And if the character is someone that you like, right? So let's say, for example, I don't know, let's say that you've watched Interstellar and you like the main character. Matthew McConaughey plays it very well. You might ask yourself, okay, well, clearly part of me resonates with that character, so there must be some sort of value system built into him that I like. And maybe that is love, right? I think one of the key cornerstones of Interstellar is love. So maybe you decide you value love, right? And then maybe you look at if you look at Matt Damon's character in Interstellar, the guy who, I won't ruin it for you, spoiler alert, but there's a character in Interstellar who's very selfish. And for me, I don't like that character, right? There's greed, there's selfishness. Answering the question of what do I value becomes a lot easier when you can use characters in movies and other people as projections or mirrors for yourself, because understanding you is significantly harder than understanding other people. So I'm going to walk you through my value system. And once you get really clear on your value system, you start to behave in conjunction with it. And what that means is that your team, people around you, your friends, your family, you naturally rub off on them and you create this walking culture, so to speak. So I believe there's 6 things that are super important to me. Now, there are more, but what I find is that you want to find like your core values. Because I could virtue signal here and list 15 to 20 things that I like and that I, value, for example. But as a rule of thumb, like you want, the less you have, the more powerful the ones you have are. So, number 1, these are in no particular order except from number 1. Number 1 is my North Star, my Polaris star. It's the most important thing to me, and I value this more than anything, okay? Number 1 is honesty. I want to try and make this video without it seeming like some sort of big, just massive virtue signal. It's kind of going to be difficult. But for me, honesty is the most imperative filter of behavior, filter of speech. Honesty, I know honesty is the best policy, to use a cliche. But that's the first one. Because honesty encapsulates a whole bunch of stuff like integrity. And if you're dishonest, that comes out in many different ways. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. If I give someone my word, then I'm going to follow through on that. And so when you're honest, you basically... The way I define honesty, and the reason I value it so much, is because your behavior and your character is in alignment with the objective, true nature of reality. You are the truth. And when you tell the truth and when you behave in accordance with the truth, the best outcome is impossible to prevent. Or the outcome that should happen is impossible to prevent. That's how I see honesty. And it truly is the biggest thing. I have this to the point now. I can give you an example. I'm staying in an Airbnb in Stockholm right now. A beautiful place. Host is really generous, very kind. And 3 of my friends are coming up to visit. The Airbnb host would have no idea. But I feel compelled, and I've done this, right, to ask him, say, hey, I've got friends visiting. Is that okay? Is there a guest fee? Turns out there is a guest fee. I will pay the guest fee. There are times in life and business where dishonesty and disingenuousness is advantageous towards the accomplishment of a goal. But if I have to do that, I don't want to do it. Because honesty is the main thing. Now, don't get me wrong, with value systems, it's very easy to polarize yourself to one extreme, right? So every now and then I might have to tell a white lie. I might have to be dishonest in the short term to do the right thing. It doesn't always mean that you have this just brutal, constant honesty. I think that's important, but I'm also conscious of the fact that anything taken to its extreme becomes its opposite. There's no value in always being at one end of the spectrum all the time, right? So I want to caveat that. But I will be honest in pretty much every endeavor that I can, but every now and then, in every instance, some instances will call for dishonesty, which will make me feel shame and guilt, but it doesn't mean that just because of the way it makes me feel doesn't mean it's not the right thing to do. So number 2, I've said in no particular order, but I'd still say number 2 is probably just under number 1. Number 2 is love. If I don't love it, I'm not going to do it. love for me, and you can look at this from the perspective of interpersonal relationships, and that's kind of like maybe in one way what I'm talking about. You know, like if I am friends with someone, or if I'm partnered with my business partner, for example, or whoever I'm with, I will only want to see them and hang around them if I truly love them. Like, no homo, I make these videos because I love you, right? You are who I was when I was starting my agency. And I make these YouTube videos because I truly just love making them. Like, people say, Charlie, how have you been so consistent for the last 2 years? I've made 3 videos every single week for this channel. And it's truly because I just love doing it. It's the same thing with Easy Grow, with my program, the 9-month build that I've talked about here and there on the channel. Right? It took me 9 months of 12 hours a day to build my program. And there's videos in there that took me 100 hours to make. Just like 3-hour videos. Oh, well, why did you do that? Because I just truly love it. That is the truth, is I just love it. And this helps my team, because when my sales reps are talking to prospects or clients, like this culture of love is created. Because I truly believe, like, if you don't love it, then why do it? I'm not saying you have to love your work, because trust me, man, like, nobody loves the first 2 years of building an agency. That's not supposed to be loved. If anything, you're supposed to kind of hate it. So it comes back to this same principle of non-binary thinking. Dude, there's shit in my life that I do that I don't love. Tax returns, right? For example. But there's a time and a place to do things that you truly hate. So I'm not saying that I'm only ever going to do something I love, because that would be stupid. That would be irrational. That would be binary, locked. I'd snooker myself, right, in terms of my behavior. But overall, in terms of how I operate, dude, I want to be in love, man. Just with everything that I do, everyone that I hang around with, the places I go, the things I see, the people I stay with. Love is it's very important to me. And you know how I figured this out is I was like, when do I feel like at my best? When I'm doing something that I love. So that's the second one. And I think it makes for a pretty good. Number 3 is pain. Now this is a strange thing, because it kind of contradicts the love thing. Like, well, how do you love pain? But trust me, you can. Now, I don't mean pain in the sense, like, I'm not masochistic, if that makes sense. Maybe I am, but not in the sexual sense. Right, that doesn't apply to me. But what I mean by pain, I find a lot of value and meaning in intentional, purposeful, fulfilling suffering. So I don't mean pain. Let's say, for example, someone close to me died, and that put me in psychological pain. That's not pain that I value. Nobody wants that pain. Or if I fall down the stairs like I did when I was 13 years old and I break my leg, right? I didn't break my leg when I was 13, but I have fallen down the stairs once or twice, how do you know? That's not pain that I want. I don't value that sort of pain. When I say pain, people get really confused, because they're like, well, what? Pain's horrible. Why would you want pain? Because they think it's like, why would you value stubbing your toe or like having your heart broken, right? That's not nice. But what I mean by this is intentional pain, where you're actively pursuing growth. Because here's the thing, right? This marries up with my 4th principle, which is growth. And the thing I figured out here, after years of meditating on these things, is growth and pain are pretty much synonymous. You can't have growth without pain, and it's kind of hard to have pain without growth. They are sort of two and of the same thing. And so, you ask yourself, like, what is the contrary? Because how did I figure this? How do I figure out that I value these things? I ask myself, when am I unhappy? Like, when do I feel like my life has no meaning or fulfillment? When do I feel miserable? Well, I feel miserable when I am on what Dr. Jordan Peterson would call Pleasure Island. Pleasure Island is this archetypal idea from Pinocchio. You're basically just in constant pleasure. You're either just eating terrible foods, you're sleeping late, you're binge watching Netflix, you're watching porn, you're taking drugs. I've never taken drugs before, but doing drugs, drinking. Pleasure Island is basically you feel amazing all the time. And that's when I'm most miserable, right? When I'm on Pleasure Island. And I'm also most miserable when I am stagnant. I'm not growing. So I was like, okay, well, clearly there's some sort of value system going on here. I know that I don't value stagnation, and I know that I don't value pleasure. In fact, it's not only that I don't value them, I actively hate them. Now, don't get me wrong, man. I find a lot of enjoyment in watching Netflix. My dopamine receptors will pop off if I eat fucking double cheeseburger. There are I have every biological imperative that I need, right, to feel pleasure. So you feel it, but It's fine if I have it in check. Cheat meal here and there, the odd drink here and there, the odd gaming session here and there. But when you just live on Pleasure Island, that's when I'm miserable. And so I figured out, I was like, oh, okay, I value pain, because like, what else would it be? Pain's kind of like, if you want to grow, you have to be in pain, basically. And that's what I figured out. So I was like, I value growth. What is growth? Growth is basically just pain times time, truly. You know, in business, personally. So number 5 is consistency. This is a really big one. I really value consistency. And see, here's the thing about my value system, right? Is that wherever you look in my behavior, right, if you've been watching my YouTube for some time, you will find that these values are upheld. For example, the honesty thing. I'm pretty well known at this point for my very brutally transparent pitches. If you go to my VSL, if you click on the link in the description and go to my VSL, it's a sales page, the first thing I say is, this is a funnel, I'm trying to sell you something. Right? I am brutally honest, which a lot of people are like, oh, okay, like he's just being honest. Like, and I'll be honest with you, I'm making this video so that I have another source of traffic for my funnel so that I can make more money. Okay? That's my intention. Now, I'm also making the video because I truly enjoy it and I truly believe that you should have this knowledge. I have self-interest. I'm not ashamed to admit that. So the honesty thing's there. I think you can see the love thing's there, because I don't think anyone makes videos like this without like some sort of love, if that makes sense. So the love thing's there, and the pain and the growth is there, and then the consistency. So do not convince yourself you have values if you're not going to uphold them, because that is dishonest. And dishonesty is obviously not something that I value. Perhaps you value, you know, here's the thing, maybe you value Machiavellianism, you value manipulation. To me, morally, that feels wrong, but who am I to tell you what is right and is wrong? I'm just a human being, right? I don't know much, so that's that. The 6th thing that I value is simplicity. Like, there's really 6, but then I just thought about it and I was like, actually, there is another one that I do behave in conjunction with that I wasn't really aware of. So simplicity, I just like things to be simple, clean, straightforward, organized, easy, just simple. I don't value complexity. I don't value anything that isn't simple. Once again, there's a time and a place where I need to have complexity in my life. There are instances and things and situations that will require me to bring forth an attitude towards complexity that is conducive to me dealing with it. So I can't always want things to be simple, because life isn't always going to be simple. And if the universe throws some complexity at me and that I need to deal with, and I'm just like, oh, I prefer simplicity, so I'm just not going to deal with it, then that's just stupid. And my team knows this. My business has been, so we've now got 13 team members, right? Near enough 8-figure run rate. And my business has been built on honesty, on love, on pain, and on growth. It's been built on consistency, simplicity, and reason. What this means is every single team member, this is basically our company culture. And this is where it becomes really fascinating and really advantageous to figure this out relatively early on. Because if you filter the structure of your business through your value system, you start to attract people that have similar values to you. And you create a company culture from the top down. That way, you're going to love it. You will love the business because it represents everything that you hold near and dear to your heart. Dude, my business is disgustingly simple. I don't think we could make it more simple if we tried, probably. It is very simple. We've been consistent. It's growing. I'm always in pain with it, which I love. I love the thing, and I'm always telling the truth. So let's get to this last thing, reason. Reason, I mean, there's synonyms for this, rationality. How I figured this one out, as I was sort of just explaining my value system to you, thinking to myself just a second ago, like, when do I piss myself off? Or when do I get pissed off at other people? And I get pissed off at other people who are overly charged with emotion and are irrational. And so I behave out of alignment with that. I behave in accordance with reason and rationality. At least I think I do, within reason, pun not intended. And so that's another thing that I value as well. Because if I look at my favourite movies and my favourite TV characters, and if I look at if I look at my heroes and the people that I look up to, Charlie Munger, for example, reason is a cornerstone of their character. So I am actually going to add a 7th, which is reason. 7's a lot, you know? You maybe just have like 2 or 3. I wouldn't really go anything beyond 7. The more values you have, like I said, the less they mean. If you look at people who just have like one core value, like peace, love, or unity, or war, right? Or hatred, or, you know, whatever. They tend to be very fucking good at channeling that thing, right? Whether it's for the good or bad of civilization, which can be unfortunate. But it really helps to figure these out early on in your life, in your 20s. Really sit down and say to yourself, what would a life well lived be? Well, if I can get up every day, if I can behave in conjunction with principles, values, heuristics, whatever you want to call them, that I hold near and dear to my heart, that's quite a good thing. So a little exercise for you, just start asking yourself, like, what do I value? And if you're struggling to answer that question, then ask yourself what you don't value. And if you're struggling to answer that question, then ask yourself, well, the people that you look up to, the people that you love, the people that you hate, the people that you don't like, the people that you do like what sort of characters do they have? You can start building a little list. Like, for example, on here, I would probably also put strength. And I would also, there's a bunch of other ones that I put, you know, like kindness. There comes a point where the more you add, the worse they become. And if I ask myself, like, do I really value kindness? If I really valued kindness, every homeless person I see, I'd give money. But I don't do that. So do I really value it? Here's the thing is, your ego will go a bit wild and you'll want to think that you are behaving in accordance with all these things. But usually you don't value them, you just want to think you do. So you have to be very honest with yourself. You know, I could put family on here, I could put friends on here. But family and friends that's not really a value, that's just something that you have. So love for me makes more sense because it encapsulates more of these sub-values. If you need more clients, click the first link in the description. If you're new, subscribe. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day.